There's a special level of wealth where common sense just checks out and leaves the building. It's a place where a gold-plated toilet brush seems like a sound investment, and a man who's allergic to alcohol buys a $65,000 wine cellar. We're about to visit that place. Here are 49 of the most mind-bogglingly dumb purchases Americans ever made, all in the glorious name of status. 1. When your ego is as big as your bank account, you don't just buy expensive things. You build monuments to your own absurdity. Case in point, a Wall Street banker who commissioned a $65,000 glass wine cellar for his penthouse. This wasn't some sprawling collection. It was a sterile museum-like display for exactly 12 bottles of rare vintage wine, each one given its own dramatic LED spotlight. The punchline? He's deathly allergic to alcohol. He can't drink a single drop. The entire installation was, in his own words, purely for the aesthetic of success. It's the world's most expensive and least useful nightlight. 2. Somewhere in New Jersey, a man took the phrase "sweet dreams" a bit too literally and paid $12,000 for a luxury air mattress. The marketing promised it would replicate the experience of sleeping on a cloud. For a while, he was living the high life, posting rave reviews about his heavenly slumber on a glorified pool float. But the dream came to an abrupt and loud end during a party when the cloud went pop. His updated review was a tragic masterpiece of understatement. Turns out clouds are more fragile than you think. For 12 grand, you'd at least expect a cloud with storm resistance. 3. If you ever feel like your life is missing something, it's probably not an $80,000 luxury travel kit. But that's exactly what one pop star decided she needed. This kit included diamond-encrusted neck pillows, because nothing says comfort like hard, pointy minerals digging into your skin, silk eye masks, and a cashmere blanket. The absolute best part of this financial black hole is that she travels almost exclusively by private jet, a mode of transport famous for having actual, full-sized, comfortable beds. It's the ultimate flex. Being too rich to use the luxury you already have, so you buy more luxury to ignore. 4. In the wild world of social media influencers, aesthetics are everything, and common sense is optional. One star dropped $30,000 on a designer hammock woven from pure silk and lined with hand-stitched pearls. She declared it the perfect relaxation accessory in a series of perfectly staged photos. Well, its perfection lasted less than a week. Her dog, who apparently has no respect for overpriced decor, decided to join her for a nap with a running start. The silk shredded instantly. Now, the pinnacle of relaxation sits in a closet, a crumpled, pearl-less heap of the most expensive dog bedding in history. 5. In Beverly Hills, status anxiety apparently begins at birth. One mom spent an eye-watering $25,000 on gold-plated pacifiers for her newborn twins. She joked it was so they could have a taste of luxury early. What they actually got was a taste of metal, followed by the familiar taste of the floor, the dog's water bowl, and the bottom of a diaper bag. Those shiny status symbols were chewed, drooled on, and eventually lost with the same indifference as a $5 plastic version. It's a valuable lesson. You can't impress someone who is still trying to figure out that their own hands are attached to their body. 6. Here's a story about a bright idea that was just too heavy for this world. A homeowner splurged $35,000 on a colossal chandelier made entirely from recycled champagne bottles, proclaiming, "Why let the party die?" Unfortunately, gravity had other plans. The chandelier, weighing roughly the same as a small car, was so heavy that the moment it was installed, the ceiling started to groan and crack under the weight of 1,000 hangovers. The party didn't just die, it threatened to bring the whole house down with it. It was removed less than a week later, leaving only a bill and a very expensive structural problem. 7. Let's discuss a level of wealth so profound it loops back around to pure insanity. $7,000 designer shoelaces. A New York socialite, convinced her look wasn't quite complete, bought a pair. To be clear, that's not for the shoes, just the strings you tie them with. When asked why, she confidently stated, "It's all about the little details. people notice. Spoiler alert, no one noticed. Absolutely nobody on the streets of Manhattan was staring at her feet thinking, "My God, the aglets on those laces are exquisite." The only way anyone found out was when she had to point it out herself. 8. For the man who has everything, including a god complex, there's always the option of commissioning a 10-foot-tall portrait of himself made entirely from crushed-up dollar bills. A hedge fund manager did just that, for the modest price of $100,000. He saw it as the ultimate symbol of his success. His wife saw it as the ultimate symbol of tackiness. She flatly refused to let him hang his money face in the living room, the bedroom, or anywhere a guest might see it. It now lives rolled up in his office, a sad capitalist burrito of bad taste, waiting for the day it's finally mistaken for trash. 9. When a backyard just isn't exclusive enough, you bring the beach to you. A businessman in Dubai, apparently tired of rubbing shoulders with the public on actual beaches, spent $90,000 importing pure white sand from the Maldives. He didn't build a private oasis outside. He dumped it all in his living room to create an indoor beach. He transformed his penthouse into a giant, luxurious litter box. And after all that effort and expense, his biggest complaint wasn't the logistical nightmare or the sheer madness of it all. It was, and I quote, "It's hard to vacuum. First world problems have officially peaked." 10. Down in Miami, a bachelor decided his daily showers lacked a certain aquatic majesty. So he spent $32,000 to install a massive, custom-built fish tank right inside his shower stall. His vision was to bathe like an underwater king, surrounded by exotic fish while he lathered up. Unfortunately, he forgot about basic biology. The constant heat, steam, and soap scum created a paradise for mold and algae, turning his underwater kingdom into a green, murky swamp. The fish had to be evacuated for their own safety, and he was left with a weird, permanently soggy glass wall, a $32,000 monument to a very dumb dream. 11. What does nostalgia smell like? One person was so determined to find out that they paid a perfumer $45,000 to bottle the scent of their childhood. You might imagine a complex blend of freshly cut grass, grandmother's baking, and old books. After months of development, the bespoke fragrance arrived. Their verdict? It smelled overwhelmingly of Play-Doh and cheap sunscreen. I mean, they're not wrong, that's definitely what childhood smells like. But you have to admire the commitment to spending the price of a new car to smell like you just came from kindergarten. 12. In Hollywood, even sleep has to be optimized with expensive nonsense. A famous actor splurged $60,000 on a crystal-infused mattress that promised to balance your chakras while you sleep. This wasn't just a bed. It was a spiritual journey powered by rocks. After 2 months of sleeping on his pile of overpriced minerals, he gave his official review. "I'm still tired," he admitted, "but at least my aura's glowing." Sure, buddy, that's great. A glowing aura is definitely helpful when you're stumbling to the kitchen at 3 a.m. for a glass of water, probably stubbing your toe on a crystal. 13. If you're ever confused by the world of NFTs, this story won't help. A crypto investor proudly spent $30,000 on what he called a groundbreaking NFT art piece. This masterpiece turned out to be a single JPEG file of a cartoon banana wearing sunglasses. To show off his investment, he displays a giant QR code on his living room wall, insisting to anyone who will listen that it's the future of art. His guests, meanwhile, just stare at the black and white square in baffled silence, probably wondering if it's a coupon for a smoothie. 14. The pressure to be creative as a YouTuber can lead to some truly strange decisions. One vlogger spent $16,000 to have a luxury oxygen bar installed in his apartment. He promised his followers it would elevate creativity and supercharge his content. He posted videos of himself breathing flavored oxygen, trying to look profound. A few months later, the truth came out in a vlog. He confessed that the main effect of his creativity machine was that it made his entire apartment smell permanently like a hospital waiting room. Nothing sparks inspiration quite like the scent of disinfectant and quiet desperation. 15. To elevate his dinner parties, a New York financier hired a personal water sommelier for $20,000 a year. This expert's sole job was to fly in artisanal water from volcanic springs and glacial melts, pairing it with different courses. The service ended abruptly after a guest brought a bottle of Fiji water as a joke, and in a blind taste test, the host admitted he actually preferred the plastic one. He paid a fortune just to discover he has cheap taste. 16. Leave it to Las Vegas to find a way to make drinking alcohol a life-threatening status symbol. A man, clearly feeling his inner high roller, ordered the city's most expensive martini, which clocked in at a cool $5,000. The price was justified because it came with a real diamond dropped into the bottom of the glass. As he raised his glass for a triumphant toast, he took a swig and immediately started choking on his own investment. Paramedics were almost called. He wanted to flex, but instead, he nearly got taken out by a piece of jewelry in his cocktail. 17. When you go to the dentist, you want comfort, skill, and maybe some good drugs. One Beverly Hills dentist thought what his patients really wanted was bling. He dropped $60,000 on a crystal-encrusted dental chair. His reason? He wanted his office to feel like a five-star club. Patients admitted it looked impressive, right up until they sat in it and realized it was still a dental chair. The real five-star experience came at the end when they received the bill, which had to be inflated to help pay for the sparkly seat of torture they just left. 18. A tech tycoon in Silicon Valley decided his morning coffee routine wasn't complicated enough. He blew $52,000 on a voice-controlled espresso machine forged from solid titanium. He bragged that it could make a perfect latte while taking dictation. In practice, the high-tech barista was a complete idiot. Friends reported that it constantly misunderstood his commands. The breaking point came when he sneezed, and the machine interpreted it as an order to brew 6 consecutive shots of espresso, flooding his counter with undrinkable caffeine. 19. For one Beverly Hills couple, a simple blue pool was far too pedestrian. They paid $75,000 to have a famous Italian artist hand-paint the tiles of their swimming pool, explaining, "We wanted every swim to feel like a museum visit." It was a beautiful, one-of-a-kind aquatic masterpiece. For one summer, after hosting a single, moderately rowdy pool party, they discovered that fine art and chlorine-soaked cannonballs don't mix. The priceless tiles were chipped and faded, turning their private museum into a very expensive, very disappointing public pool. 20. For a single red carpet appearance, a Hollywood actress paid $35,000 for a living dress, meticulously crafted from thousands of real, rare orchids. She looked like a goddess of nature for about 30 minutes. Then, under the heat of the camera flashes, the flowers began to wilt and droop in real time. By the end of the night, she looked less like a goddess and more like a walking compost pile. It was a bold statement on the fleeting nature of beauty. Or maybe just a very expensive mistake. 21. Deep in Silicon Valley, where solutions are constantly being invented for problems that don't exist, an investor spent $30,000 on a mindful typing keyboard. This wasn't your average Logitech. It was hand-carved from Himalayan salt and walnut wood, allegedly designed to connect the digital world with Mother Earth. It was a beautiful, holistic, artisanal piece of junk. He used it exactly twice before realizing that typing on a block of salt leaves your fingers constantly sticky with salt dust. It turns out Mother Earth is not optimized for writing code. 22. A guy in New York had a dream. A loud, off-key dream. He blew $50,000 installing a fully soundproof professional-grade karaoke room in his penthouse, complete with a disco ball, velvet walls, and a state-of-the-art sound system. He envisioned epic nights of terrible singing with his friends. The problem? When he invited them over, they all said no, telling him, "Karaoke's cringe, bro." Now he owns a $50,000 room designed for social fun that serves only as a silent, velvet-lined echo chamber of his own bad decisions. 23. Just when you thought luxury watches couldn't get any more ridiculous, A businessman in Dubai had a $70,000 aquarium watch custom made. Yes, a tiny functioning fish tank on his wrist with actual living fish swimming inside. It was a marvel of microengineering and a complete disaster for the fish. He quickly discovered that the constant motion of a human wrist is basically an earthquake for its tiny inhabitants. The poor creatures had to be rescued and rehoused in a stationary bowl within days, leaving him with the world's most expensive and now empty water-filled watch. 24. One man took his backyard grilling so seriously that he decided his meat deserved to be handled by royalty. He spent $12,000 on a bespoke, gold-plated barbecue tong set, declaring that real grill masters deserve real tools. For 2 glorious cookouts, he was the king of the cul-de-sac, flipping burgers with utensils that cost more than his grill. Then, the inevitable happened. The gold finish, not designed for high heat and abrasive cleaning, started peeling off. Now he's back to using the $10 stainless steel ones like the rest of us peasants. 25. Someone in Arizona looked out at their desert landscape, filled with native, thriving cacti, and thought, this isn't exotic enough. So they spent a cool $30,000 to import a special cactus all the way from Dubai. You know, to make their desert look more deserty? The irony was apparently lost on them. It was even more lost on the cactus. Within 2 months, the foreign plant, unaccustomed to the specific Arizona climate, wilted and died. It was promptly replaced with a regular local cactus that probably cost about $20 at Home Depot. 26. One Manhattan woman spent $25,000 on a handbag that was less of an accessory and more of a mobile command center. It came with a built-in studio-quality selfie light and its own Wi-Fi hotspot. The only catch? To power all this useless technology, the bag was loaded with batteries, making it weigh nearly 10 pounds. Even worse, it would overheat so badly that she had to carry it around in a separate, fireproof pouch. It's the only handbag in the world that is both a fashion statement and a potential explosive device. 27. A Silicon Valley executive decided his reflection wasn't motivating enough. He invested $48,000 into a smart mirror for his home gym. This marvel of technology not only showed his form, but could also live-stream motivational speeches from celebrity trainers. After 2 weeks of being screamed at by a virtual coach while half asleep, he admitted he turned the feature off. His reason? It was too judgmental at 6 a.m. He paid nearly $50 grand to get heckled by an appliance in his own home. 28. For one Hollywood director, movie night at home needed more drama. So he splurged $68,000 on a vintage popcorn machine, meticulously restored with gold leaf, ruby buttons, and a custom sound system. This wasn't just any popcorn maker, it was programmed to play a dramatic cinematic score every time a batch of popcorn finished popping. His family now refuses to use it. Why? Because, as they put it, it's too loud and too extra. He successfully made the simplest part of movie night an unbearable theatrical production. 29. Down in Miami, a man looked at his beloved dog and thought, you know what's missing? A solid gold grill. He then spent $25,000 on a custom set of gold grills for his canine companion. The vet was, unsurprisingly, horrified at the dental risks. The dog was, unsurprisingly, not impressed at all. As a bonus, the dog immediately got a hold of the plush, custom-made carrying case for its new bling and chewed it to shreds, proving that some luxuries are truly lost on the intended audience. 30. Not to be outdone in the world of ridiculous pet accessories, a guy in New York dropped 15 grand on a custom-made velvet suit for his Great Dane. It was a masterpiece of canine couture, complete with matching diamond cufflinks for the paw cuffs. The dog, being a dog, expressed its opinion on formal wear by ripping the entire ensemble to shreds within an hour of putting it on. For a brief, shining moment, he was officially the best-dressed disaster in the entire city. 31. A woman in Los Angeles was convinced the secret to perfect hair was in the water. So she spent $18,000 on a revolutionary hairdryer that claimed to restructure water molecules for optimal hydration. After using it, she swore her hair had never felt better. The funny thing is, tech reviewers took it apart and found it was just a regular hairdryer with some fancy LED lights and a whole lot of nonsense marketing. But hey, for 18 grand, you're not just drying your hair, you're buying the belief that your hair feels blessed. 32. In Florida, a man decided his koi fish were missing out on the joy of the open road. He splashed $75,000 on a custom aquarium built into the backseat of his Bentley. Now his fish could enjoy the scenic routes in ultimate luxury. There was just one tiny problem. Within a week, the entire interior of his $250,000 car started to smell like a fish market. Now, no human wants to ride with him, but at least his koi are traveling in more style than most people ever will. 33. A real estate mogul in a cold climate decided his multi-million-dollar sports cars deserved better than to touch cold pavement. He spent $90,000 installing a fully heated driveway system. Not for safety, but so his Ferrari's tires would never have to touch a cold surface. His proudest quote on the matter? "Even my asphalt lives better than most people." His neighbors were less impressed, calling the whole extravagant project peak overkill, and probably rolling their eyes every time he pulled out of his warm, cozy garage. 34. A pop star purchased the ultimate bathroom centerpiece, a $75,000 bathtub carved entirely out of a single massive crystal. The installation was an ordeal, requiring 7 grown men to haul it into her mansion. It sparkled, it shimmered, it was the definition of opulence. In a later interview, she admitted she had never actually used it. The reason? The sparkle is too distracting to relax. She bought an object of luxury so luxurious that it completely failed at its one and only job. 35. Some people buy furniture for comfort, others buy it as a cry for help. A New York hedge fund bro made headlines when he spent $22,000 on a status couch made entirely from deconstructed Louis Vuitton handbags. Imagine a lumpy, monogrammed Frankenstein's monster of luxury goods squatting in your living room. It looked exactly as stiff and unwelcoming as you'd imagine. According to his friends, it's more of a museum piece than furniture because, in the years he's owned it, not a single person has ever actually sat on it. It's the ultimate symbol of wealth, a couch you're too afraid to use. 36. In Los Angeles, you don't have to be rich to look rich. You just have to be willing to rent the illusion. One woman spent $10,000 on a status selfie experience. This package included a few hours on a fake private jet set, a rack of borrowed designer clothes, and a personal photographer to capture her manufactured lifestyle. She then flooded Instagram with photos, complete with captions like, "Blessed and living my best life." The only thing she was living was a lie, and the only thing she was blessed with was a massive credit card bill for a 3-hour fantasy. 37. Here's a purchase that's symbolic in all the wrong ways. A man paid $24,000 for a pair of handmade shoes carved entirely out of solid marble. His grand plan wasn't to wear them, obviously, but to display them in his closet as a symbol of strength. It was a great idea, until he realized they were just a pair of incredibly heavy, ridiculously expensive rocks shaped like footwear. They never even made it out of the box they were shipped in. They are now, presumably, the world's most overqualified and overpriced doorstops. 38. A woman in Los Angeles decided her chihuahua needed more bling than a rap superstar. She shelled out a jaw-dropping $60,000 on a diamond-encrusted collar, complete with a matching charm bracelet for herself so they could twin. The only problem with buying extravagant jewelry for a living creature is that living creatures grow. Within 6 months, the Chihuahua had gotten just big enough for the collar to no longer fit, leaving the owner with a glittering monument to terrible financial planning and one very unimpressed, unadorned dog. 39. Leave it to Las Vegas to produce a story of such concentrated idiocy. A man, desperate to be the king of the nightclub, dropped 42 grand on a custom, diamond-encrusted vape pen that he proudly called the ultimate flex. For a few glorious hours, he was the guy with the sparkly vape. His reign, however, was short-lived. On its very first night out, he accidentally left his $42,000 toy in a nightclub bathroom. It was a legendary flex that lasted about as long as a pop song and then vanished forever. 40. When your car is electric but your ego runs on pure gasoline, you get something like this. A tech mogul spent $75,000 to install a gold-plated charging station for his electric car in his garage. He bragged to a magazine that it made powering up feel luxurious. His neighbors, however, pointed out that it looked and functioned exactly like every other charger on the block, just with a much shinier, much more ridiculous finish. He essentially paid the price of a brand new luxury car for a glorified extension cord. 41. In Silicon Valley, even the falls have to be expensive. A CEO commissioned a one-of-a-kind $45,000 hoverboard completely covered in gold leaf. It was the perfect fusion of futuristic travel and ancient opulence. He took it for its maiden voyage, promptly lost his balance, and broke his wrist. As the paramedics were helping him up, he reportedly muttered through the pain, "At least it looked sick while it lasted." And with that, the golden hoverboard was retired to a shelf, a glittering trophy of a 5-second ride. 42. Someone with more money than geographical knowledge managed to purchase what was advertised as a private island. The catch? The island was a man-made pond with a sad lump of grass in the middle, located in a completely landlocked state hundreds of miles from any ocean. The price for this slice of fraudulent paradise was a casual $900,000. It's a powerful reminder that you can indeed buy a fantasy. You just need to read the fine print to see if that fantasy includes an actual coastline. 43. Here's a new level of pampering you didn't know you needed. A Wall Street executive bought a $17,000 set of cashmere gym towels. His reasoning? Sweat deserves to be pampered too. He envisioned dabbing his brow with the fabric of kings after a grueling workout. Unfortunately, he forgot that cashmere is a delicate material, and industrial-grade gym laundry machines are not gentle. The entire set of ultra-luxurious towels fell apart after the very first wash, proving that some materials, like some ideas, are best kept far away from the gym. 44. One man in New York was so committed to making a good first impression that he bought a $10,000 custom phone number. It wasn't made of gold or anything. It was just a sequence of very easy-to-remember digits that he thought would impress clients. The irony kicked in almost immediately. The number was so memorable that he started getting calls constantly from everyone. Annoyed, he ended up keeping his $10,000 vanity number on silent most of the time, effectively paying a fortune to be more popular than he wanted to be. 45. A Miami developer decided to get into conceptual art, and it cost him $30,000 for absolutely nothing. He purchased an air sculpture, which was a signed certificate claiming ownership of an invisible artwork by a famous artist. When reporters asked him to describe his new masterpiece, he said with a straight face, "It really fills the room with presence." What he meant was, "I paid $30,000 for a piece of paper and the bragging rights to owning empty space." 46. In Beverly Hills, one man looked at his toilet and thought, "This experience isn't luxurious enough." So he dropped $15,000 on a gold-plated toilet brush. Not a toilet, not a bathroom set, just the brush. His justification was a line for the history books. Even the dirtiest tasks deserve a touch of elegance. When you're cleaning supplies for the grossest chore imaginable cost more than most people's first car, you haven't achieved elegance. You've achieved a whole new level of insanity. 47. A man in Texas decided his cowboy hat needed to be a literal crown. He spent $40,000 on a custom-built, diamond-studded cowboy hat that was so heavy with jewels it weighed nearly 10 pounds. He proudly wore his sparkling 10-gallon hat to exactly one rodeo. He quickly discovered that balancing a small boulder on your head while trying to enjoy the festivities leads to severe neck spasms. He went home with a headache, a pending chiropractor bill, and a hat that was too painful to wear. 48. A crypto mogul wanted the perfect background for his Zoom calls to project an image of power and stability. So he had a $100,000 solid marble dining table shipped from Italy. The table, weighing over 2 tons, arrived and was moved into place. The floorboards, not designed to support the weight of a rhinoceros, immediately cracked under the strain, forcing him to undertake a massive renovation of the entire dining room. The table was meant to be a status symbol, and it ended up being a wrecking ball. 49. A Beverly Hills heiress decided her teacup pig, a creature that enjoys mud and sleeping, needed some serious sparkle. She spent $80,000 on a custom diamond-encrusted leash and collar set. The pig, having no concept of fashion or finance, absolutely detests wearing it. Every time she tries to put the glittering contraption on, the pig dramatically flops over and refuses to move. Now, the $80,000 set mostly serves as very expensive, very sparkly jewelry for the floor next to a stubborn pig. Now for the hard question. Be honest. If you suddenly had $1 billion, which one of these truly terrible ideas would you secretly be tempted to try? Don't lie and say none. We all have a dumb, rich idiot living inside us just waiting for a lottery win. I want to know what yours would buy in the comments. And while you contemplate your future bad decisions, hit that subscribe button for more financial insanity.